Hi, my name is Catherine Page, and this is Sarah, Jamie, Michelle, and Meredith. And we did our final project about an interactive visit with an elementary school in Cary, North Carolina. This project's main goal was to spread awareness of female scientists and their roles in the scientific community. We wanted to make sure future leaders of America understood that anybody can become a scientist and how important they are in everyday life. The benefit of going to elementary school is to open their eyes at an early age. This presentation is about our experience with the children there and analyzing the results of the findings.
This is a shot from the front of Oak Grove Elementary School. We arrived to the school on a Wednesday morning before the students were going to music class. We checked in at the main office where we all had to take pictures and get a photo ID name tag, which was a new experience for most of us. As we approached the class, we went over our outline once more before presenting to Ms. Grabowski's 4th grade class. The plan was to introduce ourselves to the class and ask the students what they knew about scientists. Then Sarah would ask them to draw a picture of a scientist and give it a name. After they completed the first assignment, we would let them share. Those who shared would be awarded candy. Next, Jamie would teach them about the variety of occupations that science has to offer, as well as explain that scientists are not to be stereotyped and that they are normal individuals who can be male or female. After this explanation, we would ask them to take a few minutes to think about what we said. Then they will redraw and possibly rename their scientist. Michelle and Catherine will question the kids about their drawings and if any of them wanted to be a scientist and why. We entered the school with this outline in hand, but bearing in mind it might not go as expected. We anticipated that maybe the students would be more educated on the topic of scientists than we expected due to the banner hanging in the hallway. It represented 2 female kids experimenting with chemicals and science. We were optimistic as we entered the classroom and were welcomed by eager 4th graders.
After arriving to the classroom, we quickly set up a projector at the front of the room. We did this so that we could show the class our PowerPoint presentation that we had prepared. Then we introduced ourselves and tried to make the students comfortable by talking to them about NC State and teaching them the Wolfpack hand sign. Next, we provided the students with a blank sheet of paper and asked them to draw a picture of a scientist. Then we told them to give the scientist a name and write that at the top of their picture. We did not explain the assignment any further. We wanted to see what they would come up with on their own from their imagination. As they were working on their drawings, we walked around the room to look at their progress. Almost all of the scientists being drawn were older white males with crazy hair and were all given male names.
After they finished their drawings, we asked them to share their drawings with the class so that everyone could see what the other classmates had drawn. If a student was brave enough to share with the class, we rewarded them with a piece of candy. After they shared their drawings, we explained to them that not all scientists look this way, and not all scientists are male. Only one student drew a female scientist, and it was a picture of her mother, who was a dermatologist. We then asked the children to think about any female scientists that they know. They were unable to name any, so we went on to talk about a few of the more famous ones in our society, including Jane Goodall. We also went on to explain that not all scientists stay indoors all day and wear white lab coats. We showed them pictures of female scientists baking cookies and another picture of a female scientist standing next to a full-size cutout of Justin Bieber. This shows the kids that scientists are just like everyone else. They like the same things as we do and love having fun.
Then we showed them a picture of a hallway that had been painted by female scientists in a pediatric ward of a hospital. This is used to teach small children about science and get them interested in scientific topics. A lot of the pictures on the wall were about cell biology. These pictures are drawn based off of the cells the scientists see under the microscopes in their labs. After we showed the students pictures of a couple female scientists looking under the microscope in a lab, we asked the students if they had ever looked under a microscope before. A few students raised their hands. When asked what they saw under the microscope, they replied hair or blood. We then prompted the kids to think about different ways science is used every day. Some children brought forth suggestions such as brushing your teeth and running water, but overall they couldn't come up with many uses. We then provided other examples such as electricity, transportation, communication, tools, and entertainment. After we provided these examples, we asked the kids to raise their hands if they had a cell phone. Overall, the majority of the class had cell phones, which we found surprising.
After we discussed the different uses of science and technology, we prompted the students to consider what we had discussed throughout our presentation. We then asked them to flip over their original drawing and consider drawing a different scientist. We asked them to redraw and rename their scientist, giving the new information. As they began drawing, we circled the classroom, observing their changes. Some students took it seriously and altered their pictures to represent a regular person. Some removed the white lab coat and crazy hair, which resembled Einstein, and instead drew individuals resembling Jane Goodall and even one of our own presenters, Michelle. Overall, we observed most of the students were responsive to our presentation based on their final pictures. We saw that they were able to understand that not all scientists fit the stereotypical mold that is represented in the media. After our visit, we discussed our various impressions and reflected on our visit to Oak Grove Elementary. As the kids drew their first picture, the drawings were relatively what I expected. Without any given instruction, aside from being asked to draw a scientist, I assumed they would draw a stereotypical representation of a scientist. As fourth graders, they are exposed to mini cartoons which depict scientists as evil, male, and mischievous. Therefore, I was not surprised by their first drawings. I expected the kids to alter their original pictures based on the information we discussed in class. I imagined more students would draw female scientists. I was pleasantly surprised by the number of students who participated in the assignment and showed improvement. They were actually listening and altered their drawings to resemble regular people. When I was in fourth grade, I would have probably drawn a picture of Einstein. I was just as uninformed as they were at their age, if not less informed. Female scientists have become more prevalent in our society today, so it is expected that they would have more knowledge about female scientists. The young girls need to be presented with positive examples and new role models other than generic pop icons or athletes. So this is why it is important for us to teach children about scientists.
I expected the students to draw somebody similar to Einstein. I don't know much about the curriculum for fourth grade students, but I figured that was the only really prominent scientist they knew about. Their first drawings didn't really surprise me since they were consistent with my hypothesis. I hoped after we had the discussion they would change their drawings to a female scientist, but I had my reservations because I have worked with children for a few years now and know they have some pretty creative imaginations and will draw whatever they want to draw. Their second drawings included many female scientists, but also some very similar ones to the first drawing. I probably would have drawn a crazy scientist just like the kids did because that was all I was exposed to when I was a kid through internet and TV, etc. It is important to teach them about female scientists so we can break stereotypes at an early age. When the directions were given to draw their own representation of a scientist, I expected exactly what they drew, men in lab coats with unkempt hair. So I was not surprised at their first drawing. The second drawing, I did not know exactly what to expect. I knew there would still be some children to draw a picture similar to their first drawing, at least in the aspects that their scientist would still be a male wearing a lab coat. However, some drew scientists dressed in normal everyday clothes, and some included normal everyday items such as coffee. So I was surprised that what they understood about our discussion as not necessarily being just about women being scientists, but that scientists in general act the same and use the same items that normal people use daily. At that age, about 9 or 10 years old, I would probably have drawn something close to what these children drew. I would probably have tried to mimic a scientist from a cartoon show, since that would have been the first vision of a scientist that would appear in my head. For children to realize that female scientists exist as well as male is important, especially for female children, because all they are mainly exposed to is men scientists. In media such as cartoons and in school, where usually men are seen in pictures more frequently than women, so it is important to give them this exposure at a young age.
first time around, I expected the students to draw exactly what most of them did, a crazy-haired mad scientist holding a test tube or a beaker. I was not surprised by their first drawings for the most part because elementary school students are not usually taught about women scientists or about diversity in STEM fields. There was one girl in the class whose drawing did surprise me. She drew a female scientist that looked like an everyday person. Later, she shared with us that her mother is a dermatologist, which most likely influenced her decision to draw a female. The second time around, I expected that more students would draw a female scientist or just make their original scientist look more normal, like an everyday person. We made sure to talk about both of these things in our presentation, then asked them to draw the second picture right afterwards. I figured there would be a variety of drawings the second time around. Some of them would be the same as the first set of drawings, some of them would be female, and some of them would be made into average-looking people as opposed to the mad scientist. At that age, I probably would have drawn an Einstein-looking figure in a white lab coat. I do not remember learning about many women scientists in school, especially not in elementary school. Young children need to have the right perception of science fields at least before they reach middle school. As they develop interest, those that are interested in science need to know the stereotypes in the field and know how to fight against them.
I thought that the students would draw a crazy old white man holding beakers filled with bubbling green liquid, the classic male scientist we learned as small children. Therefore, when the drawings were similar to this image, I was not very surprised. I was surprised that no one drew an African American scientist because I remember learning about numerous famous African American scientists during every February during Black History Month. After we explained to the students that scientists come in all shapes and sizes and not all scientists are male, I thought they would change their images to reflect more normal-looking people, some of which were female. I was once again not surprised when about half the class changed their drawings to normal female scientists. Others in the class that did not change their image to a female did at least change their drawings to depict more normal-looking men. If I were young again, I probably would have drawn something along the lines of Bill Nye the Science Guy, because all of my teachers love showing us his videos during class. I think it is important to teach younger children about females and minorities in the sciences so that they realize it's a diverse field and everyone has an equal chance of getting involved.